What's up, fight fans? Welcome to the Rearview Mirror UFC 213 post-fight show. My name is Flyin Brian J, and like for the pre-fight show, the preamble, my friend Nicholas Baldwin is joining me once again, and we're here to talk about all the action. Robert Bobby Knuckles Whittaker just took the UFC interim middleweight championship away from the clutches of evil Yoel, the Soldier of God, Romero. Initial thoughts, Nick?
Well, it was a good fight. I saw Twitter saying how great of a fight it was, and, I consider a great fight Justin Gaethje, Michael Johnson. This was fun. It was the momentum shifts definitely made it entertaining and interesting because Romero did good the first two rounds, and as a lot of people predicted, his cardio didn't really hold up, and Whittaker. It's not a coincidence that Whittaker's 3 rounds on every single judge's scorecards and probably every single media person scorecards was the last 3 rounds. The guy has a lot better cardio, although he did tire himself late in the 5th. But the cardio was key. He started, he turned things up as the fight went on, as Yoel Romero slowed down and his offense, decreased, and his defense and just backpedaling and being up against the cage, all of that increased while Whittaker's offense increased. And that was really the story of the fight. I thought it was a very clear fight. It was, there was no argument as far as I'm concerned. I mean, 48-47 Whittaker. There's not many fights where there's one scorecard that is the best scorecard and anything else is somewhat controversial. Like, if you give Whittaker more than 3 rounds, I'm not so sure that's a good scorecard. And if you give Romero more than 2, I'm not sure that that's a terrible scorecard. I think 3-2 Whittaker is practically the only scorecard. You can make a slim argument for Whittaker in the first round, and that they're therefore 4-1, but that's a bit iffy. So that was interesting, but just Whittaker, the takedowns. Romero, as I predicted, was able to at least get Whittaker down more than Jacare was because he exploded so much, or he just so explosive in general. But Whittaker, his get-up game is fantastic. His takedown defense already is very good, but he's very good at getting up when he's taken down. Him practically running to the fence when he's in the middle of the cage, on the ground, taken down on the bottom. All of it very, very smart, very intelligent, and just very skilled. Skill from Robert Whittaker. The guy deserves it. The guy did everything right, and him injuring his foot or knee or whatever it was. I think foot, but broadcast said knee. Even more impressive, doing it on one leg, perhaps, even more impressive. Yoel Romero, I'm not so sure the decline starts now, but at 40 years old, you got to start, considering he's not going to go down as fast as Jacare because Jacare got slept, essentially, by Whittaker, but is this the decline of the Soldier of God? It very well could be, but I just can't help but, it's insane that Whittaker is 26 years old. He's the intermiddleweight champ. He's going to be the real champ. He's already the real champ. We went over this earlier today, but he's going to be officially the real champ very soon, assuming Bisping doesn't fight GSP, and he's young. So it's going to be – this is the Whittaker era. It's like Max Holloway just a month or so ago. So overall, I thought the fight was very good. And Whittaker, there's no doubt he deserved the win.
So I forgot to mention to the listeners or the viewers at the very beginning, if you don't want to watch the whole video now, you can subscribe to MMA Mania on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, Player FM, Google Play, iVoodoo. Wherever you can find podcasts, you can find the MMA Mania podcast feed. So please subscribe to us there if you're not already, and you can hear the audio without the ugly. So you mentioned that there was some back and forth in the main event. There was not that much back and forth. There was not that much ebb or flow. It was Yoel, in my opinion, clearly winning the first 2, and Robert Whittaker more decisively winning the last 3 rounds. And if we were to look at the first round, and if you wanted to give the argument for Whittaker to win that, it was 9-9, significant strikes landed, but Yoel had 50, basically a minute of control time, and he had that one takedown. Round 2, Yoel 47 strikes to 5 from Whittaker, so there was a huge round for him. But they were pitter-patter strikes on the ground, basically. And then in the third round, I thought for a minute that maybe Yoel was just conserving his gas. He knew he got the first 2 rounds. I thought maybe he's just going to, have some gas left in the tank, and then in the 4th round he was going to explode. But nope, just went downhill and downhill and downhill and downhill. And clearly Robert Whittaker got the better of him. What I was annoyed by at the beginning of the fight was Yoel hit Robert Whittaker's lead leg with a stepping side kick to the thigh 3 times. And Joe Rogan kept saying, "Oh, I wonder if he hurt his knee in an exchange." Like, dude, fucking Yoel, huge man over here, stepping side kicked into the thigh 3 times, and you missed it. And he's got a bruise on his fucking thigh, and you missed it. I don't see how that was happening. But so in the beginning, some great fight IQ from Yoel. But you mentioned Robert Whittaker's super young, and maybe he could reign over the division for a super long time. But during that fight, I was thinking to myself, man, I'm not as convinced now that Yoel could destroy Bisping, because Bisping has a similar output to Robert Whittaker. He has some decent takedown defense. Maybe he could have done the same thing to Yoel. Am I crazy?
Yeah. You are insane. Yoel Romero, he lost his first UFC fight tonight, sure, but this is also to the best middleweight on the planet. And Romero would still destroy Michael Bisping. I'd be very confident in that.
Yeah, okay. So you wanted to talk about setting the line on Robert Whittaker versus Michael the Count Bisping. We don't know when the fight's going to happen, but Robert Whittaker politely asked him to fight him for the real belt in the aftermath of Yoel versus Whittaker. Maybe 3 months, actually could be a long time if he has this knee injury. We could be talking 6 months from now until Bisping defends his belt for the second time. And it'd be over 13 months since his last title defense. Anyway, that's kind of ridiculous. But anyway, where would you set the line?
And I'm not being sarcastic or anything. I would honestly make Whittaker a minus 1,000 favorite.
What? Minus 1,000 on the count? Man, or on Whittaker over the count?
Definitely not on the count, but yeah, on the Reaper, on Bobby Knuckles himself.
Right. So I don't know about that. I'm setting the line. Jay Richardson in the comments says he would set it minus 250 Whittaker. Alex Hall thinks you're crazy.
That's more. Minus 250 is more realistic because it's not going to be as high as minus 1,000 because Bisping's a champ and it's just not going to be like that. But if Whittaker was the champ and Bisping was defending the title and had picked up a win over Dan Hendo and sort of a flash win over Luke Rockhold, a fight that he probably wouldn't, 9 times out of 10 he'd lose. Whittaker, the odds in general, odds are too wide for a lot of fights. You see minus 500 favorites and it's a bit insane. Like Chad Laprise closing at minus 800 was really ridiculous. And even Blades, he didn't need to be minus 750 or whatever he was. I mean, in general, lines should be closer, but going by the way they are now, with Ronda Rousey closing at minus 2,000 against so-and-so, and Chris Cyborg having ridiculous odds, Whittaker absolutely should and could be a minus, or should be a minus 1,000 favorite.
Well, they're wide because they're made so that the bookies make money, and that's basically why there is such thing as a bookie or a place to bet. But man, I don't know. If it's anything, minus 500 would be like my cap to bet on Robert Whittaker. I'm not a capper. I'm not a tout or anything like that, but minus 500, I'll bet on Robert. Minus 505, I'm not doing it. I might consider parlaying him, but so Amon Scott,
I would assume Whittaker opens around the minus 500 range, maybe even lower. Like he could very well open at minus 300, and that would get blown up a lot, probably minus 600, minus 700. But realistically, I'm sticking with what I said. Minus 1,000 is quite fair. Just looking at odds in the past, looking at big favorites. I just don't give Bisping a chance at all in that fight. And no disrespect to him, nothing against the champ, but I favor every top 5 middleweight and maybe even a few more against Bisping. He's a good fighter. Sure, you have to be a good fighter to knock out Luke Rockhold, but and go where he's gone. He's a good fighter, but he's not champ material. Robert Whittaker is, and I'm sticking with that number.
Everybody in the comment section, Nick, wants you to explain why you think so hard that Yoel would crush Michael Bisping. There's a lot of people that think you're crazy for thinking that he would. Well, they just want to know. Sure, maybe Yoel would beat him, but they want to know specifically how you think Yoel would beat Bisping. Do you think it's from ground and pound? Is it because Bisping?
I think he mauls Bisping. I mean, before this fight happened, the thing is, before this fight happened, everybody would have said in that comment section that, and they can talk, they can say whatever they want, but everybody would have said Yoel Romero crushes Michael Bisping. But now that he's lost the fight and the mystique of the Soldier of God is gone in a way, he looks a bit more human. But what did we really learn from this Yoel Romero loss? Not that much. We knew his cardio wasn't great. We knew what changes. Sure, he's not undefeated in the UFC, but what really changes? He's still explosive. He's still one of the best athletes in the UFC. He still doesn't have great cardio. His striking is decent. His wrestling's fantastic. He's explosive, as I said. What did we learn? Very little. So why should Yoel Romero versus Bisping, a fight that is, somewhat unrelated to what we saw tonight, why does that change? Yoel Romero, sure, he lost, but we didn't see something where it's like, oh, Yoel Romero certainly is not nearly as good as we thought. Robert Whittaker is just that good.
Yeah, so we didn't learn anything about Yoel, that is true. I just had a little bit of pause because, man, if he cannot finish Bisping in the first 2 minutes, I thought that Yoel had a little bit more cardio than he showed tonight. I know he wrestled quite a bit. He was unable to get the takedowns against Robert early or really at all. But if he cannot finish Bisping in the first 10 minutes, what's going to happen to him in rounds 3, 4, and 5, just like Robert Whittaker? And I think that you'd have to play that out in your mind if you're going to set the line on Yoel versus Bisping. I, too, would pick Yoel via some kind of finish because I don't think that Michael could handle the explosivity. Isn't it Michael's left eye that hinders him? I think it's his left eye. So he can't see strikes coming from the right, but Yoel, again, is a southpaw, so he's not really throwing those right strikes, maybe a check right hook. And then Michael got just bumped and humped by Tim Kennedy. Yoel doesn't have that good a top control, but he does have super explosive takedowns, and obviously Michael doesn't have as good a takedown defense as Robert Whittaker, and he's not as young or fresh as Robert Whittaker. So Yoel should probably be able to take him down and maybe elbow him into the Netherlands or the Nether Realm like he did against Lyoto Machida. But, yeah, I still think Yoel would beat him, but I have a little bit of pause. And the line, if before this fight the line were, I don't know, minus 500, coming out of the fight, it's minus 300 on Yoel. That's just what I think.
For me, I would say it's significantly less than Whittaker versus Bisping, but I would still say probably in the minus 700 range. And I know realistically that never happens, but that's where I feel that's how big of a favorite Romero should be.
Yeah, okay. So normally at this point in the show we would talk about what's next for each fighter. We know what's next for Robert Whittaker, and by golly, I'm happy about it. I'm happy that we don't have to see Michael Bisping versus GSP or even talk about that or talk about GSP coming to the middleweight division. Stick to 270 pounds, bro, and let us have our middleweight division how we want it. So Robert versus Mike next. What did you think of the little promo that Mike cut in the octagon afterward?
He's doing what Michael Bisping does. He's trying to get the attention on him, and there's nothing wrong with that. Props to him. Do whatever you can to get people talking about you. Sure, I believe in that. So whether it's good or bad, I actually didn't mind that he, said good job to Yoel, because I know they don't really like each other, and have said other less nice things to them in the past, to each other in the past. So that was cool. Him being nice with Robert Whittaker and then calling him a motherfucker, that's whatever. It's Michael Bisping. It's kind of expected at this point. I wasn't surprised, and Bisping being in the octagon, whatever. I didn't really care. It kind of cool. They got to face off a little bit, see each other. It was it was kind of a whatever moment, but I guess I'm not going to. Whatever. I don't really have an opinion on it. It was cool, but it's not a big deal.
I think it was brilliant. Mike came in. He showed that he can be humble. He squashed a little bit of beef with Yoel. Said, that was a fun fight. He didn't want to talk smack. He congratulated Whitaker for getting the victory. Then he went ahead and cut a quick promo for them to use to promote the next fight by talking a little shit, cursing a little bit, because that people love it when you bleep stuff on cable television. They're like, ho, somebody cursed and they bleeped it out.
you know that we're going to see that one sequence, for months and months leading up to this fight that will eventually happen, whether or not that's in 3 months or a year. We're going to see that one moment, Bisping calling Whitaker a motherfucker and all of that. We're going to see that, and, it is just Bisping creating promo material for the UFC. That's what he does.
Yeah, brilliant. So when we're going to get into the WTF of the card in a second, I was thinking about giving my WTF of the card to all 3 guys that were kind of involved in the main event. Bisping, Romero, Whitaker. There was a ton of respect shown between Whitaker and Romero afterward, even though Bisping came in and cursed in Whitaker's face and pointed at him and threw his belt on the ground. Whitaker just was like, haha, that's neat. We're going to fight soon. That was fun. Respect, Mike. And it's just, there was so much niceness happening. These are the baddest men on the planet in my favorite weight class, and they're just being buddies out there. I'm going to beat you up in a month or so. That was pretty fun. Mohammed Walid wants us to talk about Bisping throwing he ripped up a Cuban flag and then threw it at Romero between one of the rounds. Was that kind of fucked up?
A little bit, yeah. Again, am I that surprised that that's something Michael Bisping did to Yoel Romero during Romero's fight? Not that surprised. Did I, was I calling for that? No, but yeah, it's a little maybe too much when it comes to country pride, and I know, isn't burning an American flag illegal or
No, it's not illegal. It's covered in the Freedom of Speech Act, because you could say that you're expressing yourself by burning the flag, and so it's protected under. Oh my God, I'm such a terrible American. I took a class on this fucking amendment, but anyway, yeah, it's covered. You can burn.
My excuse here is that I'm Canadian, so.
Yeah, I just am forgetful and older than I look. So what's next for Yoel Romero? We have a comment from Brendan Van Ryn. He wants Yoel versus Rockhold, and that was my first thought as well. Either Rockhold or the Dreamcatcher. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Rockhold makes more sense, because UFC typically does winners versus winners and losers versus losers, other than when a winner is say ranked number 9 and fights a loser who's still ranked number 2, and it's a big step up. So this fight makes sense. It makes more sense than Romero Mousasi, just because Mousasi is on that winning streak. Mousasi, I don't really because Mousasi Rockhold, that's what the UFC wanted to do, but now at this point Romero Rockhold, which was going to happen essentially a couple of years back when they both won on the 194 card, when Romero beat Jacare by a split and then Rockhold beat Weidman for the title. If Romero hadn't popped and then all that happened, that fight would have happened for the belt. So it's unfortunate it didn't, but I still would like to see it as a non-title fight. But that sort of leaves Gegard Mousasi hanging a little bit. I don't know what you do with Mousasi. Just thinking about the rankings, maybe a fight with Brunson. Brunson last time out, he beat Dan Kelly. And maybe you rebook Brunson Mousasi, and then you do Rockhold Romero and then Whitaker Bisping for the title. And yeah, there's a lot of options. There's a lot of top guys at middleweight. But I think for Romero, I think Rockhold makes the most sense, especially because Rockhold hasn't fought since the title loss.
We're going to talk about the Moose in a little bit when we get to one of the prelim fights, one of the middleweight prelim fights, of course. But for right now, let's speculate and let's pick who you would think would win between Yoel, the Soldier of God, Romero, and Luke Rockhold. First, I want to give some preliminary thoughts on it. Eamon Scott thinks Rockhold would murder Romero, and I'm not sure about murder or even defeat handily. I still have a lot of love in my heart for Yoel Romero, but Luke Rockhold does have really fucking good grappling. So if Yoel took him down, where Yoel does not have good top control and he puts himself off balance a lot, maybe Luke could submit Yoel because that dude has some slick jiu-jitsu, super long limbs. He hasn't fought since losing the belt to Michael Bisping. That's something to take into consideration. I think the line would be set still in Romero's favor just because, well, he looks like a Ninja Turtle. He's got a recency bias, he's fresh in people's minds, and I think he would have a physicality advantage over Luke Rockhold, but you mentioned earlier perhaps Yoel's going to fall off a cliff soon. Maybe he doesn't need to take a fight this high a level this quickly, but I would definitely favor Yoel Romero, and it would probably be like minus 150 to the comeback, plus 135. What do you think?
I don't know. That's a really, really tough matchup to call, and it's not one I'm gonna say. This could obviously change, but the line I would honestly say would be closer to even. Maybe it opens minus 115, Romero minus 105, Rockhold, just because Romero has done a lot more as of late. Rockhold hasn't fought in a year and a month. So that is, one reason solely by itself that, Romero could be just slightly favored. But as far as the stylistic matchup, it's actually a decent matchup for Rockhold. As long as he keeps it on the feet, I think he's not Robert Whittaker, but he can outpoint Romero in the same way Whittaker did tonight by just using kicks, keeping Romero off of him. He has very good kicks, using straight punches, just racking up points, and Romero would have a good first couple rounds, most likely.
Yeah, so that's a huge thing, Nick. What do you think? If it's a 3-round fight, Yoel, for sure. 5-round fight? That changes everything.
5-round fight, I'm leaning Rockhold just slightly. I think it as far as how close it is, as far as how it plays out. This also is a bit of recency bias, just because now we know whenever a fighter fights, we tend to think that's who they are. And even though, like, if a guy who, say, especially when you don't know much about him, so say he's a newcomer and all of his fights before his UFC debut are boring decisions, and then he wins by knockout in his debut, we instantly have in our minds that the guy's a knockout artist, which isn't the case. This was his first knockout, so it's sort of the same case. We don't think I lost what I was saying, but Romero in a 5-round fight, I would slightly favor Luke Rockhold because it'd be very similar to tonight's fight. Not because Rockhold again is identical to Whittaker, but because they have they both have the gas tank advantage over him. They both, and Rockhold is taller, so the size could also come into play. The size could come into play. I would favor Rockhold over 5 rounds, but I would favor Romero over 3.
Yeah, I think that's going to be kind of the narrative of Yoel for the rest of however long his career is. One thing I think is Luke Rockhold does the same thing every time. He throws a check left hook and then just kind of fades away with it and drops his hand, so he's really open to the left hook over here. That's why left hook Larry, Michael Bisping, was able to knock him out, because he did the same thing in the first fight. He does the same thing every time. And with Yoel being a southpaw, maybe he could catch him with a left hook similar to Michael Bisping. Of course, that's pure speculation. It sounds like we have a legitimate enthusiasm toward watching that fight, so I think that's definitely the next fight to make. Let's talk about our WTF of the card, Nick. I've got a couple. Actually, so most fight cards have multiple candidates for a WTF of the card. A referee does something stupid. The judges fuck up a score terribly. Somebody says something stupid. Maybe, I don't know, somebody burps huge on their stool. Lots of shit usually happens, but there were very few moments tonight that were possibly WTF worthy. Mine is going to go to, I don't know. Do you got one? I'm kind of at a loss.
I'm kind of thinking Bisping at the end. We already talked about his little promo thing with Whittaker in the cage at the end of the main event. At the end when Bisping handed Whittaker his belt, I don't really understand that. Like, what was Bisping trying to say? Here's my belt, take it. You're gonna have it anyways in a couple months. I don't really, I don't understand what he was.
No.
What he was trying to say. I really don't. He alluding that Whitaker can think he can take it easily. I really have no idea what he was saying. So for that's my WTF of the card.
Mine was going to go to Robert Whitaker's corner between rounds 1 and 2. All the corner advice that they gave him was, forget about your knee, punch him in the face. Punch him in the fucking face. Punch him in the face. Like, yeah, great corner advice. Like he wasn't already trying to do that. So I guess that's going to be my WTF of the card. Let's talk about the co-main event. Muhammad Walid thinks that possible WTF of the card goes to Overeem versus Verdum for the decision. But I actually wholeheartedly agree with the decision, but not necessarily. I think that Alistair Overeem, officially he defeated Fabricio Verdum via majority decision, 29-28, 29-28, and then won 28-28, giving Fabricio a 10-8 round in the third. But, so I scored the contest for Alistair Overeem. If it were just like who won that fucking fight, just watching a street fight, Fabricio Verdum won the fight. But, so we live in this world with the judging. I don't think it was a terrible decision. I think it was the right decision, but Fabricio Verdum definitely caused more damage and fucked Alistair up more than Alistair fucked Fabricio up. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I'm with you. I saw your tweet and I completely agreed with it, how Overeem won the contest, but as far as the actual fight goes, and I know it doesn't really make sense because this isn't how fights are scored and, all of that, but, if this was prior rules, Verdum would win. If it was scored as a whole fight, as a whole, Verdum would win. The damage he did in the third round was more significant than anything Overeem did over the course of 3 rounds. So he would, he easily wins the fight that way. But we have the 10-point must system, and the 10-point must system has its flaws usually, but I don't think it's as bad as some people think. But this is a clear example of where it does need its changes. It does maybe even needs to go. I'm not a guy who's campaigning for it and whatnot, but this is a clear fight where it really does not make any sense because first round, razor close. 6 strikes were Doom, 4 strikes Overeem. Overeem had them, slightly more powerful shots, so therefore I gave him the round. Second round, a lot more clearly into Overeem, but the third round, very clear for Doom, and that should not be scored the same way as rounds 1 or 2, but it just wasn't enough for current 10-8 round scoring. So there's the big flaw in the system. Luckily for Overeem, he did just enough in the first 2 rounds and then was able to give away a huge, a lot in the third round, but it didn't matter because it was only in 1 round and not 2. I agree with the decision. It could have gone either way because Verdum winning the first round, I would have no problems with that, and it could have been a draw because, the third round could have been as 10-8 for Verdum. He hurt Overeem very badly. Overall, terrible fight. Maybe as expected. First 2 fights sort of, well, what do you expect? But I think the main message here is don't give the winner of this, Alistair Overeem, a title shot. Francis Ngannou, if he gets past JDS, and I think he will, I don't care if it's considered rushing him to a title shot. He's next in line if he beats the former champ in September in Edmonton. Overeem Verdum being boring just makes it all that more clear.
Yeah, I think you touched on everything that really needs to be said there. I have a couple of ideas on, not necessarily, I'm fine with the fucking 10-point must system. I don't know if we really need to change much. It's fine. Mixed martial arts is part sport, part spectacle. It's the sport part of it that scoring comes into, but here's a couple of ideas how we could fix that. So, Alistair Overeem versus Fabricio Verdum, if we didn't have Ngannou ready to step in for a title shot, that could have been for a number 1 contender spot. And I think maybe all number 1 contender fights should be 5 rounds. And that would have solved it right there. Fabricio Verdum would have probably have won the fight if we went to a 4th round. Alistair wouldn't have been recovered, and Fabricio could have pieced him up, knocked him out. Also, a little bit of lacking fight IQ for Fabricio. He had Overeem hurt, was landing every single shot that he wanted to on the feet, decided to go to the ground with him with like a minute to go in the fight. Should have just kept it on the feet and continued to waylay on him, but that's a different discussion. Next thing I could say is I was kind of glad one judge gave the third round to Fabricio a 10-8. Not necessarily that it really deserved to be a 10-8 with the current criteria for scoring, but maybe we could have a sliding scale for what is a 10-8 round. So round 1 was a 10-9, and then round 3 was also a 10-9, but if we take in the 2 rounds prior to the third round and say, okay, those were 10-9s, now this one, the third round, was way more decisive than the 2 previous rounds, and so you could look at the 2 previous and be like, okay, so if those are 10-9s, this obviously is not a 10-9, bam, 10-8, but it would have to be the later rounds that are scored based on how the first 2 went. So if there were 100 to 90 strikes landed in the first round, it would just be judged accordingly because it was 6-4 in the first. Or we give more 10-10s because you could. I saw a lot of people on Verdict MMA. It's a fun little app to make picks and shit. I saw a few people put 10-10 on the first round. That's something you could do. Do you think I'm making any sense?
No, you're making sense. I don't necessarily think 10-10s or more 10-10s is the right option because, 10-10s with, I used to give them out more than I do. I think I started to understand scoring a bit more than, say, when I did give out 10-10s. When, I gave out 10-10s when it's like, oh, I mean, this round was relatively close. I'm not sure. It could go either way. Let's just say 10-10. But I like the idea that just pick a winner. There has to be a winner. A 10-10 literally has to be when it's dead even, and we've seen maybe that happen once or twice ever. So I don't really love having 10-10s. I think we just need to come up with such a specific scoring system where there's always a winner. The only time a 10-10 should be given out is literally when there's 4, say 2 fighters are fighting each other and they both land 10 strikes in a round. They're all of equal power, of all equal significance. That's a 10-10 round. And say it's all on the feet, all 5 minutes. That's a 10-10 round. It has to be dead even because that's what the scoring is. So I don't really like that or the more 10-10s just because we just don't see dead even rounds. There's always someone who has a slight advantage. It just comes down to us being smart, knowing the rules, and having a scoring system where we can see those advantages.
So what do you think about maybe going to the more 10-8 or perhaps the pride type of scoring? Like, we don't have to score each round. We'll still have the rounds because that's fun. Then we have more ebbs, we have more flows. But then at the end, we're just like, okay, who won?
It's tough. I don't think we ever go away from scoring rounds entirely. I think that it's just going to be something. I don't mind it. Like, it's kind of weird. I mean, at the end of the day, does it really make sense to score it round by round because it's just all one fight and, tough. That's a tough argument, and it's sort of almost just personal preference. I don't think there is a better way per se. I don't mind scoring it round by round, but more 10-8s, even more so than now. The new rules for a 10-8, the new guidelines for a 10-8 round is good because we're seeing more. They're given out a lot more often by the judges and by people watching the fights, but it still needs to be a lot different. We still see rounds that are scored equal, 10-9, 10-9, that are a lot different. Even rounds 1 and rounds 2 of the co-main event over in Verdun tonight, round 1 was a 10-9 for someone, whether it was Overeem or Verdun. And round 2 was a 10-9 for Overeem. But Overeem, there were different rounds. Overeem, it was a lot more very distinct, very clear for Overeem. The first round could have gone either way, but they're still equal. And the third round, even a better example. How is rounds 1 and rounds 3 10-9? How do they equal the same thing? Verdun came close to finishing Overeem in the third round. And this is where we need to step up. 10-7s need to be a thing. We don't, 10-7s aren't a thing right now. We just don't use them. They need to be a thing. current 10-8 rounds need to be scored 10-7. Current 10-9 rounds, or the very close rounds, need to be 10-9, and there has to be something in the middle, and that's a 10-8. Not, a super dominant round, 10-7. Clear, decisive, but not super dominant, 10-8, and then very close round, 10-9. That's what it should be, I think.
Yeah, all of that makes a lot of sense. I had a thought that I was going to put out, but it completely left my brain. So let's give our grade for the entire card, starting at the top, working all the way to the bottom with Trevin Giles versus James Bachnovic. What letter grade would you give the entire card? The viewers on Facebook Live are voting below us here, and we only have the options of A, C, or F, and the majority of the people are voting A. We have 14 on A, 9 on C, 7 on F. I'm going to put myself somewhere in the middle, but what do you think?
It's tough. Let me just take a glance at the card, because sometimes you forget things. So I'll just go through every single. No, I'll just do that in my head.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say before. One sec.
Sure.
If we're talking about changing the scoring, we're talking about fixing the scoring. One thing we need to fix is the unified rules need to be unified. It seems like less people have adopted the new rules than have actually. It seems less have adopted than not. That's stupid.
Yeah, whether someone is fighting in Kansas City, Missouri, or Las Vegas should not determine what you can do inside that cage. As long as it's both, UFC events put on by UFC, Zuffa, WME, whatever you want to call it, as long as it's the same organization, it should be identical. And that's a big issue right now, and it's really frustrating. And that's just from someone who watches it. I can't imagine how frustrating it is for these fighters, because we've seen, a lot of fighters in the UFC have fought multiple times in 2017 already. Sure, there's some that haven't, but a lot of them have. And there's, I haven't gone through every single one, of course, but there's probably a large amount that have fought twice, and the rules have been different for, both fights.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. But further than just per promotion, I think they need to be. If you're trying to put on a mixed martial arts promotion, no matter if your name is the Flyin Brian Fight League or if you're the Ultimate Fighting Championships, the rules need to be the same, because we can't have a guy that dominates under one rule set on the small circuit that we want in the UFC, and all of a sudden he comes into the UFC, rule set's different, and his one path to victory is severely altered, and now he's no longer that good.
That is a good point. What if someone in one championship was so good at using soccer kicks, that was their best strike, and once they come over to America fighting UFC, they're not that good? I mean, that's a bit of a stretch, because, taking away one strike probably doesn't change a guy drastically, but what if? It's just an example. That is a good point. I don't think it changes, because I don't think it's already drastic enough where I don't really see one championship adopting, the rules UFC uses. No soccer kicks, round by round. I'm not. But yeah, it's a good point. If we want the sport to grow, if we want it to make more sense, and yeah, maybe, but it's not. That's honestly not something I really thought about, because it's one championship feels so disconnected, and Risen and all of the other overseas organizations that are using different rule sets, drastic differences like the scoring, soccer kicks, etc. It feels so disconnected that it's not a huge concern of mine. And I like, soccer kicks. There, once in a while, I like staying up and watching Risen. It's fun, but yeah, it's not something I really ever considered. But you do have a good point.
Well, I forget which league it was or is. I don't know if it's still around or not, but there was a league somewhere in Asia, obviously not Japan, because that's where Risen and ONE FC is, and they allow kicks or knees to a downed opponent. But there was a league where downed opponents, you couldn't strike on the ground. Once it got to the ground, it was like grappling only. And so there was a few guys that meandered into the UFC, but they dominated under that rule set, got here, and they just got destroyed with some ground and pound. So because they had never. So yeah, we need to unify the rules so that we can have more consistent competition, and we don't have it's just weird to have a guy.
And hey, I know Angelilli and Ben Askren say in one championship are getting paid very well, and that's a big part of why they're not in any rush to get to the UFC. But it could also be the rule set. I mean, what if secretly Angelilli just loves using knees to the head of a grounded opponent, and she knows she can't use that in the UFC? The money, more money helps, but what if, it could also, make fighters just not, and that's not a big issue, but it could make fighters not want to fight elsewhere and whatnot. So, yeah, it's an interesting thought. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but, it's worth thinking about at least.
Yeah, it's definitely worth thinking about a little bit. So now let's sorry, I derailed us a little bit, derailed our thoughts. Let's come back to giving the letter grade for the card. I'm going to say, so we talked about the main event, the co-main event. Main event definitely gets fight of the night, in my opinion. Co-main event was weird, and it wasn't that exciting. Curtis Razor Blades versus Omi Lanchuk was definitely forgettable. Pettis Miller was pretty fun, but one-sided. Rob Font versus Douglas Silva de Andrade was pretty damn fun. Alexi Oleinik, Travis Brown, lots of fun. Chad Laprise, Brian Camozzi, fun. Thiago Santos, Gerald Mearshart, really fun. Bilal Muhammad, Jordan Meehan, decently fun. Cody Stamen versus Tyrion Ware, fun times. Trevin Giles versus James Boknovic, fun. So, man, there's just a couple of fights on the main card. Curtis Razor Blades versus Daniel Omi Lanchuk, which we'll talk about briefly in a second. Really holding my grade down. But I'm going to give it it was, honestly, Nick, it was less than my expectations. So I'm going to go with a C+. So I'd vote for the middle.
It's it's weird because I think I said B- as far as the pre-fight grade, and it did go under my expectations, especially because I expected Blades to do much better. I expected a quick win from him, and same with for Doom Overeem. I knew it could be slow, but I expected a big knockout, and that certainly would have helped. But I didn't expect maybe as much from Pettis Miller. I didn't really think. Brown Oleinik, that was fun. Laprise Camozzi, we got more than what I thought we would. Stamen Ware was actually a little bit fun. Giles was fun. I didn't, put anything into him. So I'm gonna stick with. I think I said B-, right? Or do you know what I said? B+, B. I think I said B-. You went B, right? So I'll stick with. I'll stick with the B-.
I mean, that's right there next to a C+. And besides, for the listeners that don't know, Nicholas does not go on a letter grade grading system in his school. He's just 100 out of 100. So he's just kind of guessing with a B+, B-, whatever. So yeah, C+, B-, they're right there together. I think we're pretty close. Let's briefly talk about Curtis Razor Blades versus Daniel Omi Lanchuk. And there's not much to say about the fight. Curtis Blades was 0 for 14 on takedowns. Omi Lanchuk was 1 for 1, which I bet that's a stat you didn't think you'd hear. Yeah. What the fuck? But the fight was basically Curtis Blades leaning on Omi Lanchuk for long periods of time. The best moment of the entire fight, the most exciting part was Razor Blades was shooting on a bunch of super sloppy takedowns, just basically bending at the waist and going down for it. And Omi Lanchuk gave him a decent little plum clinch, moving his face right into a knee. And I mentioned on the pre-fight show that Blades had a terrible chin. He looked to stand up tonight. But so the fight sucked. Any takeaways?
Very little. The biggest takeaway, Curtis Blades, don't get on the Curtis Blades hype train quite yet. He needs a lot more work. I know he's only 26, and I know he's going to get better, and maybe he does big things in the future, but now is not quite his time. I think it's time to stop talking about a future Francis Ngannou-Curtis Blades rematch anytime soon. Maybe I saw people before this fight happened saying that fight's going to happen for the title soon enough in the future, and maybe it will. But Curtis Blades is not as good as I thought he was. The quick wins over Cody East and who did he last fight? Cody East and Adam Milstead.
Yeah, Adam Milstead.
And him doing okay against Ngannou, especially now knowing how much of a beast Ngannou is. That really made me think, all right, Blades, this guy's legit. Now it's like, all right. The guy can't take down, not great fighter. Although Omilenchuk certainly clearly worked on his takedown defense. Actually was really good at that. But still, Blades didn't succeed there. The stand-up, wasn't very good. Not a good fight at all. So biggest takeaway is time to hop off the Blades hype train. If there was one. I don't know if there was, but if there was, don't, get off of it for the time being a little bit. Not just get off of it, but just let's slow down a little bit.
Yeah, I think there definitely was a hype train, Nick. The dude was the heaviest favorite on the card, closing somewhere around minus 800. So, yeah, I'd say there was a hype train.
Surprisingly, Laprise actually closed as a slightly bigger dog, I think. I think Blades closed at minus 750, and Laprise, I know, closed at minus 800. That's according to UFC broadcasts, and I know they were wrong with one line yesterday at the Tough finale. So, but I would assume that's correct because it sounds right. But well, yeah. Anyways,
nonetheless, an enormous favorite, huge. So
a Romero favorite over Bisping, a matter of fact.
Yeah. So speaking of getting off hype trains, getting on hype trains, what is next for Curtis Blades? I have a thought. So heavyweight fight, the main event of the prelims, Alexei Oleinik defeated Travis Brown via submission, kind of a rear naked choke, weird little deal at 3 minutes and 44 seconds of round number 2. I have a tendency, Nick, to pair fighters on the same card who win or lose on the same card. I like to pair them together. How about Alexei Oleinik versus Curtis Razor Blades?
So does that mean it's time for Robert Whittaker versus Thiago Santos?
No. We know what's next for Whittaker. Of course, he's fighting Michael. But
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. I would. That's a tough fight for Blades, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I think he loses.
I would consider, Oleinik I would probably favor ever so slightly. I don't have the rankings up in front of me, but I think that might be too... I don't know if they're going to do that. I think the UFC will look at Blades and say, all right, heavyweight division sucks. This guy, he's young.
Yeah. He
doesn't quite have a personality, but he still could do well in the future. Let's not, get him in the losing column. Let's not rush him into a big fight yet. And not saying that Oleinik is a big fight, but again, a losable fight for Curtis Blades. So I think they'll take a bit of a safer route. I'm not sure they go Oleinik. I don't have a name off the top of my head, but a top 15 guy, because he should be in the top 15 now, but even that ranking just feels weird. It really does.
Daniel Omilenchuk was the number 15 heavyweight, and Alexei is the 14. So that's just going one step up. But you're probably right.
Alexei Blades is not going to be any higher than 15. He'll be lucky to. He might be lucky to crack into the rankings. They might just throw, whoever, not Roy Nelson, but whoever, and Alexei's going up. Because he just beat number 9 Travis Brown. So. Whatever. I would watch it. It's an interesting matchup, but if they have any sort of, if they want Blades, if they have any sort of, I don't know how to put it, but if they think Blades, could do well and have a future, I don't think they want to do the Oleinik fight.
Right, yeah, you're probably right, but I think it makes sense, and I'm going to stick to it regardless. Let's go down to the next fight: Anthony Showtime Pettis versus A10 Jim Miller. Anthony Pettis won unanimous decision, 30-27 across the board. Basically, not prime Anthony Pettis showed up, but as we expected, Anthony Pettis and Jim Miller kind of played a kicking game for a bit there. Miller was doing good with low kicks, was doing good with countering Pettis' strikes, but early on in the fight, I believe it was the first round, Anthony hit Miller with a right high kick that cut his face open, and then from that moment on, it just kind of turned into Anthony Pettis' fight. He got the momentum on his side. Even when Miller was able to... Actually, he caught that kick that cut open his face and got Pettis on his back, but Pettis attacked off of his back with a triangle choke, with an armbar attempt, was able to get onto Miller's back and then was searching for a rear naked choke, had the hooks in. Miller got off of it. They were both so slippery because of the blood pouring from Jim Miller's face. But I don't have any takeaways from this fight other than it's kind of happened how I thought it would happen. And now, since Pettis is back in the lightweight division, I'm excited for what is next for him. What do you think's next for him?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with you. Pettis, he didn't look like, I didn't expect the Pettis that, beat Benson Henderson and beat Gilbert Melendez. We said that earlier today on the preamble, but I did expect a better Pettis than what we've seen at featherweight in the past year or so. I expected a guy, who was good enough to beat Jim Miller. Jim Miller, though, did make it a fight as I thought he would. He seems to fight to his competition in a way, and he made it a fight. He got in his own shots, but Pettis, mostly outpointed him on the feet with kicks, and he did decent on the mat as well. Very little takeaways, as you said, but just Pettis, thank God he's at lightweight. Featherweight, way too rough for him. What is next for Pettis? That's an interesting question. He's not ranked, so that kind of makes things interesting. I honestly wouldn't mind the Michael Johnson fight, although I think they might do Johnson versus... I didn't even mind yesterday. I forget who I said for that.
I think Johnson needs to take a little bit of a break after that.
Oh yeah, but I think I suggested yesterday Johnson versus Chiesa.
Yes, I suggested that as well.
Yeah. So anyone in the top 15 that's coming off a win, I think makes sense. Again, I don't
Al
have
Iaquinta
in front of me. I can. Yeah, I would watch that. I think that makes sense. I'm down. If Iaquinta, fights again.
He'll fight again, and if he's talking about wanting more money, they could easily headline a fight night show with Pettis and Al Iaquinta because it's fucking Showtime Pettis. They're gonna beat that Showtime kick into us forever and ever. They can easily market Al Iaquinta by selling him as the bad boy. I think that they could headline a fight night card with Al Iaquinta versus Anthony Pettis, and stylistically, I think it's a super fun fight.
Yeah, it's a fun fight, and it's a fight night worthy headliner, not just because Iaquinta's the bad guy and Showtime is Showtime, but just, it's a good fight. And, Pettis has enough of a name as a former champion. Iaquinta, he's not a household name, nor is Pettis, far from it, but, fight nights on for casual fans and, average fans. So, it makes sense, and we've seen far worse fight night headliners. So, I like that fight.
And I forget, there's a fight night card happening somewhere in New York in not too long. And so...
Are you thinking maybe the Gaslam Wadman Fox show?
Well, maybe. So if they don't headline them, that's too close. That's this month.
That's booked, yeah.
New York City, New York on... That's UFC November. 217. No, not that one. Nope. Okay. Somebody told me there was one nearby. Anyway, if they were to have a fight night card near where either of those guys are from, or even if there's a pay-per-view, you put them there and they'll put asses in the seats. So a lot of times with fight night cards, they put local dudes in to sell a lot of tickets to actually go to the event. I think that they could put a lot of asses in the seats with Al Iaquinta in some place near New York. I don't know, but I just think that the matchup makes a lot of sense. A lot of hype will be behind that fight. I'm excited to see it. Let's talk about the next fight, though. Let's see. What do we got next? Rob Font versus Douglas Silva de Andrade. So Douglas Silva lost via rear naked choke to Rob Font at 4 minutes and 36 seconds of round number 2. Basically, Rob Font kind of showed out. It looked to be an easy contest for him. He was walking forward. His dynamism and the myriad of striking techniques that he was throwing at Douglas Silva were phenomenal. I mentioned in the pre-fight that Rob has been working on his wrestling. That came to fruition super early in the fight. Seemed to wear on De Andrade, and I forget the strike. Let me look it up. Font hurt De Andrade against the fence with an overhand right, and then he did the Muay Thai knees to his body, which kind of crumbled Douglas Silva de Andrade, and then Font snagged a a guillotine choke. Did I say rear naked choke? It was a guillotine. And Silva tried to slam him while still in the guillotine. That was pretty fun. But Rob was able to hold on to it and make Silva tap out shortly thereafter. Impressive performance, right?
Yeah, this was a really, really good performance. Arguably, the performance of the night. He took very little damage. He did a lot. He looked very crisp on the feet. Andrade did not look that good. He just had very little offense. He looked not worried, but Brian Stan said he was questioning himself. I don't know if that's it, but he was just tentative. He was worried about Font catching him and him making a mistake. He was. He wasn't the pound, he looked a lot like John Lineker in there tonight, but certainly didn't fight like John Lineker, even though, again, he has the build of Lineker. He's a poor man's Lineker in a way. But Font, super impressive. The guy's getting better. I like that he showed off his submission skills as well. His ground game, nice to see because we don't see that too often. He's mostly a striker. Again, very flawless performance. We don't see too many performances where it's like this guy, where my feeling after this fight was this guy made no mistakes. This guy did everything right. This guy, did very well, very impressive. And that's what I thought after this win. Rob Font, he took very little damage, did everything right, nothing wrong. And even though he was ranked higher than Andrade, this is still a really big win for him. Yeah, on pay-per-view too.
Yeah, I was questioning if it were on the prelims, if it were to get him more of a push or get him more fans, because it was the curtain jerker of a main card behind a pay-per-view wall, which I don't think is going to have that many pay-per-view buys. I feel like the prelims probably had a lot more viewers, but nonetheless, yeah, flawless performance from Rob Font. I think that he's turning a corner, and maybe if Font were to rematch Lineker, maybe Font could get it done because Lineker showed against TJ Dillashaw, which that's a beast from a different corner of the world in TJ Dillashaw. But Lineker doesn't have great takedown defense, and Rob Font's really kicking that into his game. We're not going to see a rematch. I'm just giving it a little bit of speculation. So, yeah, flawless performance. The dude probably deserves a post-fight bonus. So before we talk about the prelims, let's give out what you would give for grades, or not grades, for post-fight bonuses. I agree with you that Rob Font deserves one, but who gets your other performance bonus of the night? And then do you agree that Whittaker versus Romero deserves fight of the night?
Other performers. So one definitely goes to Rob Font. I would consider giving it to Oleksiy Oleinik, Thiago Santos. It's tough. Giles looked really good. Santos, oh man, this is tough. There, I would maybe not give it to. This is really tough. I'll say Laprise.
You nailed it, Nick. So the official performance bonuses, fight of the night bonuses are out. Fight of the night was the main event, Robert Whittaker versus Yoel, and the performance bonuses go to Rob Font and Chad Laprise. I would give my second performance bonus to Oleksiy Oleinik instead of Laprise, just because I love rewarding underdogs that come through, and Travis Brown was a huge favorite. Oleksiy comes in here and puts on one hell of a performance, and he got the stoppage victory in the second round. Chad Laprise was expected to defeat Brian Camozzi, and actually at times, well, you mentioned it, Chad Laprise closed as the largest favorite on the card, and in the second round, he did not look like he deserved to be the favorite at all.
Well, yeah, and he looked like a minus 150 favorite for, mostly in the fight. Sure, he turned things up super late or super early in the last round, and that, he looked like a minus 800 favorite for 15 seconds of the fight. And I'm glad I changed my pick to Chad Laprise. Going in, I had been picking Brian Camozzi up until sometime earlier today, but I knew that line was off. I saw... Laprise at around minus 500, and I thought, no, there's no way. Laprise should be minus 200 to minus 250. I knew it was off, and ultimately, from what we saw, I think I was mostly right. Sure, Laprise still got the job done, But and same with Blades. I mean, Blades did not look like a -750 favorite. Laprise did not look like a -800 favorite. But same with when we were talking about the lines for Romero Bisping and Whitaker Bisping, lines in general are a lot wider than they should be. And this was just a couple cases of that.
But then again, if the favorite does win, I guess the line was right, but
-800 would suggest such a clear-cut victory. And yes, the guy got a knockout, so it has to be clear-cut, but not so much. I mean, Camozzi won the second round. I mean, a -800 favorite, as far as I'm concerned, should dominate a fight. Do you think Chad Laprise dominated that fight? I don't. He looked, he won the fight.
He definitely lost the second round and was struggling with the range of Camozzi.
Late, yeah. Camozzi made some good adjustments. Curtis Blades far from dominated the fight. Sure, he won probably 30-27, I think. I already forget, but the rounds were close-ish. Omi Lonchuk did all right. A -800 favorite suggests that that's a fighter who should dominate, get a finish, and Laprise only did one of those two things. So, yeah.
Let me talk about the technique used for Chad Laprise to finish Brian Camozzi. It was beautiful. The finishing sequence was Laprise kind of pushed. He threw I think it was a huge looping wide right that missed, and he pushed in. Then Camozzi went to counter, so he pushed to get a push back, and then he countered with a jab and then a straight right to the liver. So the liver is on his opposite side. Camozzi's liver is on, so he's hitting with his right hand, but it's on Camozzi's right side, so he's hitting across him. And he jabbed him in the face and then threw a right straight at Camozzi's liver that hunched him over, and then he closed with. What's that?
Yeah, that was incredible, and that's why I gave the second bonus to Laprise, just because that was really, really fun at the end. Really, really good ending sequence. I mean, I considered giving it to Thiago Santos, but then I thought, okay, it was a bit of ground and pound, stoppage it was a good stoppage, but it wasn't anything fancy per se. And Oleinik, you could argue that the submission was barely even in, and Brown maybe just didn't want to be there and wanted to be at Ronda Rousey's wedding. And then the other one, Giles, I mean, yeah, that's also a contender. But ultimately, I felt Laprise, I mean, that was just a really, really fun finish, and so that's why I gave it to him.
Yeah, it was definitely pretty. Let's talk about Alexei Oleinik versus Travis Brown for a second. So, comes out very early. I think it was a left hook that Travis Brown landed on Alexei that wobbled him, got him to the ground. Travis Brown followed him into his guard, was trying to look for some ground and pound, and it seemed like he gassed himself out looking for a ground and pound. Alexei gets back to the feet. They're fighting for a little bit, and Alexei, the tide turns, and he's getting the better of the striking exchanges. Brown's still trying to keep him at bay with some front kicks to the body to keep him off of him, but it wasn't really working. And then in the second round, Alexei comes out, and he hit Brown with a right hook that dropped Brown, turned him into the baby deer leg syndrome. He's really, really wobbly, and Travis Brown went for a takedown on Alexei Oleinik, which Alexei almost immediately reversed, got kind of on his back. It looked like he just had a figure four lock with his legs on one of Travis Brown's legs, and then got kind of a face crusher / rear naked choke kind of thing in. And then Travis Brown, he looked super tired. He, like I mentioned, he overexerted himself trying to get the finish in the first round, and Alexei tapped him out with a quasi rear naked choke in round number 2. So you're mostly thinking that it's Travis Brown giving up?
Well, yeah, I mean, Alexei Oleinik, maybe you could, there's an argument he's underrated because, he's getting up there in age, 65 fights or whatever it is, the guy's kind of plodding, slow, arguably, maybe doesn't have a good chin. Just, he doesn't seem like he'd be that great, but he's actually a decent fighter. His striking seems to be getting better. His submissions are very good. We've seen that in the UFC even. I think the biggest surprise here is actually he connected quite a bit on Brown. In hindsight, I shouldn't be that surprised because Travis Brown is, he's so done. It's hard to imagine that 3 years ago. He was in a heavyweight title eliminator with Fabricio Verdum, and 3 years later, he's getting beat and tapped out by Alexei Oleinik, who is number 14 in the division and barely deserved that ranking going in, considering he lost to Daniel Omeyangchuk not that long ago. So yeah, I mean, not much to say about it. It was actually kind of it was a fun fight, at the time before, say, Font Andrade happened, before the main event happened. This was probably the best fight of the card thus far. It was back and forth. Brown started really good, faded big time. Oleinik turned it up and just kept going and rallied for the finish. Good win for him. But Brown, he needed this one, and he certainly did not get it. So it's probably either retirement or Bellator.
Yeah, and I think it should be the former rather than the latter. He didn't seem, after he didn't get Oleinik out of there with his original barrage of punches, after hurting him a little bit, he didn't seem really like he wanted to be there. He doesn't seem like he wants to fight anymore. He seems content to just be Mr. Ronda Rousey, and so fucking great. The guy's going to live a nice life off of Ronda Rousey's money. That's phenomenal. Or off his money that he put away from fighting. But he doesn't seem like he wants to be punched in the face anymore, so he's definitely not in the UFC anymore. 4-fight losing streak. He's gone. I think he should retire rather than go to Bellator, where his only win in the past bunch of years was over Matt Mitrione, which oddly enough is in Bellator now, just knocked out Fedor Emelianenko. But yeah, I think that Alexei Oleinik is underhyped. Maybe he'll continue to be the underdog every time, and maybe if you're a betting man, you just lay a sprinkle on him every time he steps into the octagon. Let's move to middleweight.
He's the new Dan Kelly.
Yeah, well, he kind of is, dude. He is older than Dan Kelly, isn't he?
He's old. He's plotting, and
he's got a grappling background.
No one's older than Dan Kelly. Yeah.
Alexei Oleinik is 40 years old. The craziest thing about Alexei Oleinik is, one, his age. Yes, that's surprising.
He's the same age as Yoel Romero.
Yeah, that is something. But it's his 42 submission victories. 40 fucking 2 submission victories. Most fighters will never make it to 40 fights, and the guy has 42 submission victories. Holy shit.
Yeah, Travis Brown, I know we're probably going to talk about this in a sec, but he, the whole not wanting to be there really reminded me of what we saw earlier in the night, Jordan Mean. I mean, time after time again, sort of the same story with Mean, the Canadian. We have to question his head, where he's at, his heart, and will to win and all that. So I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit, but just kind of compare the two and see those similarities.
Let's just talk about it right now. Yeah, Jordan Meehan lost the unanimous decision to Belal Muhammad in the first preliminary fight on Fox Sports 1 tonight. 29-28, 29-28, and 30-27. I scored the first round for Meehan, but the second two for Belal. But after the first round, when Jordan Meehan was shown some adversity, he purely crumbled. So you mentioned we have to question his resolve, his will to be there, but also not only his in-cage fight IQ, but like his general overall fighting IQ. Did you hear Brian Stans say that Jordan Meehan had one training partner in his entire camp, and it was his brother-in-law? What the fuck?
I'm not so sure that's... I mean, I understand training with who brought you there and not moving around. Like, some fighters like to cross-train and see different faces and whatnot. I understand that. I can also understand staying in one place, same training partners. Training with one guy out of your garage or whatever, and when it's your brother-in-law who no one knows who he is, presumably, that's a bit weird.
Yeah, and he seemed to fade rather quickly, not only in his mental fortitude, but in his gas tank. So what were they doing? Just wrestling around in the garage?
He did well. He did well in the first round. It's not just his gas tank. He slowed down for sure, but he just... The offense was not there. Belal Muhammad turned things up. He was able to clinch a little bit with Mean. Mean just did very little, and partly due to his gas tank, but it's like he just didn't care or want it, or I don't know. It really is strange, but again, it's sort of the story of many of these Jordan Mean fights.
I'm looking at Twitter quickly. at the post-fight press conference is happening right now, and Luke Thomas is tweeting about Dana White's being interviewed. Dana White says Khabib Nurmagomedov isn't good to go in a certain time frame. He'd consider, if Khabib isn't ready to go, he'd consider Ferguson versus Gaethje for the interim. He also says that Amanda Nunes did not get paid for tonight, but the main thing that caught my attention is that Dana White even thinks that Travis Brown should retire. So, yeah. Let's all hope that he does the same thing. Do you think Jordan Meehan should retire? So he came back to the UFC after losing to Thiago Alves. He came back after 1 year off, basically 2 years off, and lost to Emil Meek, and now he lost to Belal Muhammad. He's on a 3-fight losing streak officially. The guy should probably quit, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking so. The guy's so young, still at 28, 29, but fight years he's 40. Just like Olenek and Romero, who physically looks like not a 40-year-old. The thing with Mean is I really would like to sit down with him and just ask him, why specifically did you want to come back? Is it simply you felt like you had the drive again? Was it simply you needed the money? Did you really feel like you wanted to win and wanted to fight? Why did you come back? Why did you want to come back? Or even did you want to come back? Because again, if it's just money, well, you cannot want to come back and still force yourself to. So I'd really like to sit down and talk with him and just ask, very simple question: why did you come back? Because you're not offering much in your return. So retirement again? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that would be fucking awesome, Nick. I would love for you to get the interview with Jordan Meehan for the MMA Circus. The problem is I don't think it's going to happen. I hear that Jordan Meehan is well, it's not that the MMA Circus isn't high enough profile. I hear that Jordan Meehan doesn't like to talk to people. He doesn't like social media. He doesn't like to do interviews. He obviously he trains with his fucking brother-in-law in his garage in Canada. So it's probably unlikely you get the interview, you think?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I really didn't see Jordan Mean do any sort of media. Not like I'm saying I saw Belal Muhammad or Olenek do any media either, but he seems to be a fairly reserved guy. Although his dad Lee Main wished me a happy birthday the other day, so maybe I get the special treatment and get a 15-minute convo with Jordan. Who knows?
Yeah, do that, man. I really hope that you do that. That'd be fucking great. So you should tweet his dad right now and be like, hey, can I get him on the horn? You can even say, I can't ask you certain questions. Yeah, let's get him on here. It was Connor Rebush from Heavy Hands who said that Jordan Meehan doesn't like to do... Well, he didn't say he didn't like to do interviews, but he said he doesn't like social media and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I hope that you get the interview. Let's just breeze past... Belal Muhammad basically used diversity of striking, forward pressure, and a lot of wrestling in the second and third rounds to get the better of Jordan Meehan. So props to Jordan Meehan. Props to Belal Muhammad, excuse me. Not only did Jordan Meehan look terrible, but Belal looked really good. Do you have any ideas of what would be next for Belal?
It's tough when guys are not in top 15 or, he's not that close to the rankings. You still got to consider he's lost a couple times in the octagon. I think he moves to 3-2 now with losses to Vicente Luque and Alan Jouban and a win over one of the brothers. I can't think of the guy's name. Red hair. Augusto
Montano.
Yeah, Montano. The Eric Montano. He beat Eric and most recently Brandon Brown, and now Mean. So, he's still a little ways from, cracking the top 15 and everything, but another win, and, Mean's might be the biggest name he's beat, maybe the biggest win he's had. He looked overall good. I think, another step up, keep giving him steps up as long as he does well and performs well and wins. But don't rush the guy. There's no point. Not going to get a top 15 guy next, but, maybe one more win and maybe after that. But I don't have a name. Welterweight division is quite wide open, a lot of names. There's a lot of options. I'm sure that would be fine.
Yeah, I'm just throwing this out there, and this is purely speculation. I'm just saying this name. Li the Leech Jingliang. I think that there's a similar time frame. They are... Yeah. Well, no, is he scheduled to face Frank Camacho next week?
That already happened.
Okay, June 17th. Right. Okay. Yeah, I think the Leech versus Belal. I thought the time frame was good. Yeah, man, fucking June 17th is when the Leech faced Frank. So I
that
think
was fun tonight too. How could you forget? Oh wait, it was at 3 a.m. That makes sense. All right, I forgive you.
Yeah, I fucking hated that. I hate that I had to get up at 2 a.m. to do a pre-fight show for that. It ruined my entire weekend. But yeah, okay, so yeah, the Leech.
You should have asked me to do it, and I probably would have been down. But anyways.
Yeah, the Leech versus Belal. I think that's the fight to make because on Tapology, they are right next to each other on the rankings, and the timing is nothing short of predominant.
Yeah, sure. Again, there's many options. That's just one of the many. Maybe I'd find a better one. Maybe that's the best one. I think Muhammad might be, Tapology, whatever. I don't care what Tapology says, but as far as in my mind, I'm thinking Muhammad has a bit higher of a stock than Jing Yang Lee and is a bit higher in general. Yeah. Sure. I mean, I would watch it. It'd be pretty fun. It's not one. It's like you. Sometimes there's the matchups where you say a matchup and it's like, oh my god, I need to see that fight. I've never thought about it, but that's the fight I need to see. This case, it'd be fun. I'd watch it. It'd be interesting, but it's not one where it's like that makes bingo sense, that makes perfect sense, or that's going to be super exciting.
I don't think you're ever going to get a fight with Belal. Remember the name Muhammad, where you say somebody's name and you're like, yep. That's the fucking fight I want to see.
No, probably not. Probably not. You're right.
Yeah, never happening with Belal. He's fun to watch though. But yeah, anyway, let's just breeze through these two preliminary fights. Cody Stamann defeated Tyrion Ware unanimous
We forgot
decision.
Santos Mershard, but I don't know if you were planning on.
Oh yeah, because you made me skip to Mian because we talked about him. Okay, Thiago Santos versus Gerald Meerschaert. It was either going to end with Meerschaert via submission or Santos via KO or TKO, and Thiago Santos.
And we were both wrong.
No, we were both wrong? Yeah, I know we were. Man, I was on the fence the entire week on who I was going to pick.
I convinced you to go the wrong way.
Yes, you did. But if I were a betting man, I was going to bet both Gerald Meerschaert via submission and Thiago Santos via KO or TKO because if Santos won, you would benefit 50 cents on a dollar. Or if via KO or TKO, and if Meerschaert won via submission, you would win $1.35. So that's money either way in your pocket. And a bunch of people on Twitter talked me out of it. They said that's stupid. Fucking cashed. So you would have won 50 cents on a dollar if you would have bet on both people via what they were going to do if they were going to do it inside the distance. TKO for Santos, submission for Meerschaert. Super impressive for Santos. And afterward, he called out Gegard Mousasi for a rematch. Is that something you want to see?
No, because it would go no different than what happened a year ago tomorrow. Well, actually today. So a year ago exactly today. How funny. Mousasi choked out Thiago Santos. So, I mean, it'd be very similar. Santos looked good. He looked, his submission and wrestling and grappling defense looked a lot better than it did a year ago even, or when Eric Spicely choked him out not that long ago. Gerald Meerschaert in general is a very good grappler, so he was able to defend a lot of what Meerschaert had to offer. So that was good to see. So maybe he'd have a better chance to get against Mousasi, but Musasi's just so good. He's better than Santos on the feet, better everywhere. So that's not a fight that makes any sense. Real quick, remind me, who called up Mickey Gall?
Chad Laprise.
All right, yeah, that's interesting. I would watch that fight. Anyways, yeah, I mean, Meerschaert still has a lot to, as far as his striking, that's what he really needs to work on. Santos could go far. If I was high on the guy until he got choked out 2 fights in a row, then I'm starting to think, all right, fade the guy when he's up against a grappler. But here we go. I did, and it didn't work out. So I'm back on the Santos train for the most part. I think the guy can do very well if he doesn't have those mental lapses and gets choked out. As long as he keeps chugging away on his grappling defense and whatnot, I think he can do really well and be a top 15 guy in the middleweight division.
I'm still super torn on Thiago Santos because I mentioned Gerald Meerschaert has 2 UFC victories, both via submission, but with 0 takedowns. So obviously he's not great with takedowns. He had 2 fights where the other person mistakenly took him down like an idiot. And I don't think he has great offensive takedowns. So Thiago Santos stopping him in that regard doesn't really impress me. But on the other side of the fence, I said that coming into the fight, Thiago hadn't posted anything about doing any wrestling training or really working on his jiu-jitsu. But on the broadcast, Brian Stan said that Santos had been working at Alliance MMA, I believe, really hard on his wrestling. And so that could have showed off today. But I don't think that we're going to learn a lot from him stuffing Gerald Meerschaert's takedowns. But yeah, if you could put it all together, he's an incredibly dangerous guy. He hits super hard. The problem with him is a little bit, he's a prospect that's 33, so that's not like a young prospect when we're talking about the champion is 26 years old. But yeah, I don't think he's going to get the rematch with Gegard. I don't want to see it. I'm tired of meaningless rematches, and that would be just as meaningless as it gets. Sure, Thiago deserves a step up in competition, but he's not going to get the dream catcher. Do you want to touch on if you think Chad Laprise should fight Mickey Gall in Edmonton?
Again, it's sort of whatever. Mickey Gall versus anyone's kind of fun. Laprise might make it interesting with him being a striker and Gall maybe not having great striking in general yet. But again, it's a fight where it's like, okay, I hear it. I'll watch. It's fun, probably. It's interesting, but it's not one where it's like, oh, I never thought about that, but now I can't think of anything but that.
But amazing use of his mic time for Chad Laprise.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of like who you should call out, if you're 145 pounds, 155 pounds, you say Conor McGregor's name. I don't care if you're anywhere near it or not. People are going to laugh at you and scoff at you, but they're going to talk about you. So say Conor McGregor. If you're Chad Laprise, and that's if you're like top 15-ish, say Conor McGregor. If you're Chad Laprise, you can't get much better than like somebody like Sage Northcutt or Mickey Gall because they're maybe not that talented, and for some reason they have a huge name.
Well, yeah. The thing with Conor McGregor, you don't want to do that when you're solo because then you just make yourself look stupid. Right. People talk about you, but it's so bad where it's not even worth it. I'd almost rather you say, "I'll take anybody." So it's like, the guy that made his debut, Giles, in the first fight of the night. You don't call out Daniel Cormier or say Michael Bisping. You just it's a waste of a call out. Might as well just say whatever. But yeah. Laprise, use it very well. He is high enough where it's like, yeah, Mickey Gall certainly makes sense. Gall, we think the guy is ranked so high. He's really not. He beat CM Punk and Sage Northcutt. What does that tell you? Not that much. Gall, for all we know, is not a good fighter. I think he actually can do well and go far, but the guy hasn't been tested that much. His biggest test is Sage Northcutt, so that's not that big of a test.
No, I mean he doesn't have a huge resume, but his name, because he beat fucking the wrestler,
and so therefore it's a good call out because it's a level. It makes sense as far as a fight goes and the talent level, but it's better than calling out some random top 30 to top 40 welterweight that, him calling out Jing Liang Li, all right, whatever. But him calling out Mickey Gall, that's a bigger deal.
And I was just checking Mickey Gall's Twitter account. He's tweeted like once a week for the past bit. Like, I don't understand what's going on there. Where his last tweet was on June 22nd, and it was a retweet. And his last tweet was on June 14th, so that's not... I don't know why the guy isn't more active on Twitter, but his last meaningful tweet was he'll be fighting at the end of the summer. He's going to take his time and train his ass off, so I guess that's why he hasn't been training. But end of the summer lines up perfectly with UFC 215 in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, to face Chad Laprise. So I honestly think that fight happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not here to say whether it happens. Speculation, whatever, but I'd watch it.
Well, you and I would watch pretty much anything that they'll put on a UFC card.
Sometimes I question why people, including myself, say I'd watch it because that doesn't mean a lot. I watched Trevin Giles versus Bonovich. I'll watch non-UFC. I'll watch Risen at 3 a.m. So me watching something, can mean it's the worst fight of all time or that it's the best fight of all time. I'd watch Gabby Garcia beat up a 13-year-old, even though that's cruel and should never happen. I'd watch, a lot of bad MMA.
I watched every one of Rochalt's fights in the UFC, so there's that.
Well, so did I, and I enjoyed maybe one of them. Maybe
the Alexei Oleinik fight.
Yeah, that's the one I had on my mind. Honestly, yeah, I liked Rochalt alright, so I didn't I didn't like his fighting style, but I didn't hate it as much as you. You're like the all-time Rochalt hater.
The guy was the worst fighter of all time. I hate him. I like to
point proof.
I like to compare people that are boring to him. If they're being a lay and pray, just kind of bump and hump guy, I say they're Rochalting. He turned himself into
it's not just you. Everybody. Rochalt is the king of grinding, and so therefore it's turned into you're Rochalting. You're Rochalt. That's not just you. That's the thing. That's the thing.
Yeah. And
sorry, maybe you started it. You started it, but
I probably did.
You've made it into something.
Yeah, we've made this podcast into a super long one, so I don't really want to talk about the next two fights really at all. Trevin Giles KO'd James Bachnovic.
Actually looked really good, but yeah, I'm kind of tired.
Yeah, he KO'd him in the second round. Bachnovic was unconscious for a super long time. They took him out on a stretcher, but a little bit ago at the post-fight press conference, Dana White said that he went to the hospital. They did a bunch of tests, and he's fine. So he's out of the hospital. He's walking around. He's probably sleeping now. But he was out walking around a little while ago. So thank goodness, because for a while there, I was super worried about Bachnovic. Because when somebody gets knocked out and they won't show them on the camera, and then John Morgan tweets that he's still not up, he's on a fucking stretcher, I'm like, oh my gosh. Hopefully I did not watch the first death in the octagon tonight, because that would scar me for life.
Yeah, that's some serious stuff, and yeah, that obviously would be really, really terrible. So thankfully he's fine. Seemingly, apparently all tests came back negative. Obviously, very thankfully. On the other hand, very good performance for his opponent, Trevin Giles. I'm looking forward to them in the middleweight division, particularly Giles. He was certainly undersized regularly at 205, so I think 185 suits him well. I think the guy, he looked really, really good against Bachnovic. I don't really know what his, level as far as ability and skill is, but hey, he fought someone and looked really good, so I'll give it to him. I'll look forward to his next fight a little bit more.
Right, yeah, and the only other fight, Cody Stamann, basically Jared Rochalt did, Tyrion Ware, not really worth talking about at 2 o'clock in the morning. Nick, let's get the hell out of here. Tell the listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks again for having me here. I'm a bit tired, and I still have multiple articles to write, so that's going to be interesting. You guys can find me on the Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. Let's get the rally for the blue checkmark hashtag going. You can find my podcast over at the MMA Circus. You can find my writing over at bloodyelbow.com. Of course, back to the MMA Circus. I hosted each and every week with Andrew the Clown Kid Lawrence, the one and only. This past week, episode 118, we had Kevin Lee, Motown Phenom himself, on the show, just coming off his win over Chiesa. And we also had new Bellator lightweight champion Brent Primus on the show, fresh off his win over Michael Chandler at Bellator NYC. So check it out. Check out Before the Battle I hosted with Wesley Riddle and Jed Mashu. We break down each and every UFC card, and sometimes if Bellator is good enough, Bellator as well. Thanks again, FBJ, for having me here. Thank you to anybody listening, because a lot of you, it's 3 a.m., maybe even upcoming to 2 a.m. It's late nonetheless. Thank you for listening, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with me, Nick. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry for keeping you so long. and you still have work to do. I didn't realize that, so I apologize. But thanks a ton for sacrificing your time to come and talk about this card with me. That's awesome. For the viewers that are still here, you are all warriors. I cannot believe that you're still here. That is amazing. Thanks a boatload. Please like my Facebook page. You can just click my name up there in the title of this video. Follow me on Twitter at Flyin Brian J. And please go give Nicholas a follow as well. And listen to the MMA Circus. It's this, but better. And read his stuff on Bloody Elbow. And I will be back on Monday to do the next episode of Fight Nerds, where I will predict the upcoming fight card, which is known as #UFC Glasgow. It's happening in Glasgow, Scotland. So I'll see you all at 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern on Monday evening. Namaste.